is the grand finale. It is the last day, and we are totally excited about having you here with us. Thank you so much, Tarek, for taking us through that particular session. We totally enjoyed that. And also to the panel speakers in the previous panel, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we want to celebrate the 12 years that we have been here, and we appreciate each and every one of you for your support, for your engagement, and for taking us through this particular session. So we want to get into an exciting panel discussion where we're going to be discussing modeling, governance, and compliance through Regtech. This is kind of a mouthful, but I'm looking forward to this particular session. And one of our panel speakers, this is Haida Pasha, Senior Director and CSO Northeastern Europe, Middle East and Africa at Palo Alto Networks. And also in the panel, we have Nzilani Mweu. She is a technology lawyer and co-founder at MyCoPkit. And also we have Francis Monyango, he's the founder and CEO at Velam. And also in the panel, we have Janet Othero, the partner TMT at Triple OK Law. And to moderate this particular session, he is the manager public policy Safaricom, one of the most eloquent ladies you'll ever get to hear. She is seasoned, she is fired up, and she is ready to moderate this particular session. She is none other than the ever so lovely Rosemary Kimwatu. Welcome, Rosemary, and over to you.
Asante sana, Ian. How are you all today? Welcome to today's session. Thank you for everyone who's made it today. And we look forward to an engaging conversation on Regtech and modeling compliance through Regtech. So a long time ago, everything was manual. We had papers, one file to the next, in financial services, in telcos. Whenever you needed to do compliance, you needed to do your KYC, you needed to do your AML. Today, compliance has even moved to new regimes, data protection. How then have we as human beings moved to the next level to make sure that we serve the huge number of customers that need to be served, and also at the same time ensure compliance with such huge amounts of data? So in comes Regtech. Regtech are the technological platforms that come in to actually help compliance people to make sure that everything is in order. And today we have the privilege of having people who've actually put together Regtech platforms. We have users, supporters of the Regtech platforms. We even have a speaker from the legal profession where we'll be asking, is it legal or Regtech, will one take over? And we also have somebody from the security space, Hadia, who will be talking to us about, now that you've adopted Regtech, what security concerns should you have? So now on to my panel. So I think we'll start with Nzilani. Hi Nzilani, how have you been? So today I want to ask you, what has your experience been in building a Regtech platform, and how effective has this been in helping your clients with the compliance challenges? And maybe just slightly introducing what your Regtech platform is all about. Nzilani, you're on mute. I think try unmute.
Sorry.
A common problem with these technologies. You're on mute.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Thank you.
All right. So my ComplyKit is currently geared towards data protection compliance. And we came about my ComplyKit from our experience participating in the formulation of data protection policies and data protection law in Kenya, as well as advising a lot of the multinationals in Kenya around data protection, because elsewhere where they're operating, they already had laws in place. And so from that experience, which is from my practice as a lawyer, then we ended up with creating a platform where specifically small and medium-sized businesses would be able to get policies and advice and information on data protection compliance. Now, when you look at the market in Kenya, most of the businesses are online. So there's a lot of Instagram shops, Instagram businesses. There's a lot of businesses promoting themselves on Twitter, and how they operate is they will collect your information. You give them your name, your location, the item you want. From that, they're able to tell exactly where you live, your full names. Sometimes they can even profile you based on the products that you buy. And so all of these businesses, regardless of their size, are collecting data on people which they process, they store, they use to profile people. They can tell, whether you have kids. They can tell. There's so much based on the information they collect, and so that's what my comply kit does. And from my comply kit, if you go to the website, you're able to gauge your level of compliance. You're able, based on a free questionnaire that guides you to determine what you need to comply and what you've complied with already. And so from that point, then you purchase the tools that are necessary. Now, from when we were building the platform, we were also informed by our experience as practicing lawyers. And so we created 3 levels of engagement. So the first level is completely automated. You get onto the platform, you determine the policies and compliance that you need. You pay for them, you purchase, and they're automatically sent to you with a bit of modification to suit you. Now, the second level is where you reach out and give additional information that you'd like included, which is also quite automated. Now, the third level, which was in recognition of the Kenyan market and our experience that a lot of people still want to have that human contact. They want to see the face behind the technology. We created a level where a customer can then reach out to us and either set up a meeting or a call. Basically, we get to speak to them one-on-one. Yeah. And our experience has been that a lot of people actually pick the one-on-one option as opposed to the fully automated options. Even when they will eventually go with the fully automated options, they would prefer to at least have a conversation, get in contact with the person behind the technology. And I think it's about building trust, that because regulation is also about competence and delivering information that is legally sound. So I think based on that, there's still the need for people and customers to put a face to the technology, create that trust before they actually utilize the technology that you've put out. So yes, that has been our experience so far.
Yeah, thank you for that. So next, and I like the fact that you saw an emerging law, one that came into the country and helped you customers and even clients figure out how then do you utilize technology for compliance. Thank you for that. So next I'll speak to Monyango. Hi Francis, good morning. Thank you. Kindly take us through how your Regtech platform has helped your clients in their day-to-day compliance, and realizing that from where you play, it's a season of ever-emerging news. Today, you need to comply to this. Tomorrow, you need to comply to that. How have you managed to utilize your platform to assist your clients in their day-to-day regulatory requirements?
Thank you very much, Rosemary. My name is Francis Monyango. I'm a policy executive at Oxygen Marketing and Communications Limited, and we have a product called Velum. So Velum is a policy and regulatory tool that helps businesses navigate the regulatory ecosystem. We have a legislative tracker. We help clients with stakeholder engagement, among many others. So on your question on timely updates on how we help clients with timely updates on policy issues in their respective sectors, we usually, one of the biggest sales for Velum is usually intelligence. We give our clients timely intelligence on what is going on in their respective sectors and what their regulator is thinking. So if you subscribe for Velum, we'll take note of the sector that you're in. Let's say you're in the manufacturing sector. We will take note, okay, in the manufacturing sector, we will help you. We will be giving you weekly updates via the Velum Weekly and sometimes Velum Insights on what is going on in the sector. If there's an event, we'll help you know what your regulator is thinking. We will give you updates on whatever is happening in Parliament or in anything that touches on policy and regulatory issues. We will help you know what is going on and how to navigate that. And then on stakeholder engagement, which is also a key A key thing in the Vellum product is we help clients on how to engage their regulators. So we will help you map out the stakeholders. We'll basically walk with you through the stakeholder engagement journey and help you even with some analysis and such stuff. We also in the Vellum, we do regional policy monitoring. So we will update you every week or even per day if there's a policy issue in a country where you're operating that touches on your company. So we do policy monitoring for neighboring for countries other than Kenya. So that includes Kenya, that includes Uganda, Tanzania, and mainly in the East Africa region and some other countries such as Nigeria and South Africa. Um, we also have spoken about the Vellum Weekly, which is a weekly publication that goes out to clients. That goes to weekly publication that goes out to clients, and it's basically a review of what took place in the policy arena. Now that it's a collated publication that contains a review on everything that took place that particular week. Yeah.
Thank you, Monyango. Asante sana. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your input and the fact that you've been able to actually get those things that are very difficult to understand, to grasp, and actually digesting it into a Regtech platform that customers can access real time to make sure that they are compliant. So next, I'll go to our other lawyer in the house. I think Nzilali mentioned she's a lawyer. Monyango is also a lawyer. But we have today a lawyer who's at the crossroads of traditional legal practice and also with emerging technology. So Janet, my challenge to you, and I'll ask you maybe in 7 minutes to explain, or even 5, what do you think technology vis-a-vis the legal profession? Do you think that Regtech will one day take away the role of lawyers? And I think we've seen things coming up like smart contracts and all that. We have 1,000 insurance contracts that need to be handled immediately. We don't have 1,000 lawyers to go through each one of them per minute. So what do you see, paint the picture for us?
Hi, Rosemary. Thank you. Traditionally, legal service has been mainly a very manual service in light of the fact that it involves a lot of paperwork, a lot of back and forth correspondence, a lot of documentation and evidence that needs to be collected in very hard and manual format. So from coming up from legal practice the way it has been, that's how we have known to operate within the legal service industry. But slowly we are seeing most government agencies digitize their services. We are seeing a lot of digital products come into the market, being rolled out by mostly our clients for their customers. And we are seeing even in terms of just cross-border sort of practice, a lot of it has to be done on digital platforms. So we are talking about the land's office, the company's office, digitizing their services and expecting customers and more so lawyers who support companies within those registries to also sort of think about digitizing internally. We are also looking at the way the pandemic has shaped how legal practice is being done. A lot of court process now is being done online. Filing is being done, filing of pleadings that used to be very manual is now being done on digital platforms. A lot of interaction between the litigating parties is being done on digital platforms. So going forward, we are foreseeing a lot of regulators and we are foreseeing a lot of state agencies fully adopt digital provision of services. Now, the lawyer cannot be left behind when all this is happening because we are the link between our clients and most of these government and state agencies. So internally, then we'll be forced to adopt and either upskill ourselves or get certain facilities or services that will enable us be ahead of the curve when it comes to basically enjoying the services that are being offered by these state agencies. In addition to that, we realized that it's become more expedient and more resource effective for our clients if you're able to pursue a brief and do a brief within the shortest time possible. So this, for example, if we are talking about things like mergers and acquisitions and due diligence, initially it was more, you'd have 3 or 4 resources being sent to a data room to comb through documents manually. This would take days and then it would result into more billable hours for our clients and would eventually even stretch the project. But now we are seeing tools that are coming into the market that will enable both parties probably dump the documents in a data room and enable parties access the documents within the data room without having to physically go to a client site to be able to do this. This cuts on the time it takes for delivering on your legal services, but it also cuts on the resources and the billables that you'd charge this client. So now clients are more prone and are more likely to go to firms that have digitized their services because it makes it easier on their end to be able to deliver on their end and also output on their end. So law firms now will be forced, or lawyers will be forced to look at what tools, what platforms are there that will enable them now digitize their services to come out as attractive to customers. Because at the end of the day, what a customer or a client would be looking at is just ensuring that I get value for my money. If I not get on top of the value I'm getting for the money, I get additional value for the fees that I'm paying, and I get it in a very efficient and cost-effective manner. And with the work from home model that we are seeing most companies adopt, I want to be able to open my laptop and get all the information from my lawyer in a very consumable format, either between not even in email, but between systems that link our companies with law firms, and we are able to get access to our lawyers in real time and in good time whenever there's a situation they're handling for us. So the legal lawyers and the legal practice will be forced to upskill eventually if they need to keep up with the emerging trends that we are seeing globally and nationally when it comes to digital disruption. It's gonna be hard for most of us because of how we are trained and how we came through our training, that everything has to be reduced to a manual sort of format and a physical sort of meeting. But we are seeing a wave of change coming forth, and it's gonna eventually the outcome is gonna see a lot of lawyers being put out of business, unfortunately, if they don't choose to upskill themselves. But lawyers who upskill and embrace digital disruption and modeling will be at an advantageous position. Rosemary?
To the future. So thank you very much. Next, I'll ask Hadia. We have now moved from building platforms, adopting them. What advice do you have, both for the builders of platforms and for the users of platforms, from a cybersecurity perspective? What should they look out for? Hadia, can you hear us?
There we go. I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
So thank you for the question. Thanks for having me on. So I think it's a very interesting question, and it's a great setup to the three questions you've asked earlier. There are two parts of this equation that we need to look at. The first is what can we do or what should developers be doing as they build out the Regtech platforms? And then the second part is what should customers be doing as they adopt the Regtech platforms? So I'll talk about the first piece as well. From a development perspective, as we build and as we develop, I think it's important to understand that cybersecurity should not be at the tail end of that development cycle. It needs to be at the early end, and in fact, actually on the whiteboard before they even start developing. So a culture of awareness, a culture of visibility, I think is going to be very important. Making sure that you're working closely with the development team to identify what guardrails you need to set, I think is going to be very critical. Adopting the right cybersecurity standards are critical. And then, of course, making sure that you're training and hiring the right talent that understands cybersecurity is going to be critical. And then the last piece of advice I'd give for the developer piece is you need to make sure that you are embedding the technology inside of your development process so that it can support you. So technology such as, developers use containers quite a lot. Having the security technology that protects containers and that life cycle is going to be an important example that I just shared with you. So that's on the development piece. On the consumer side, it's important to understand and take some of the best practices that Tarek talked about in his session previously, which is have a culture of cyber resilience. Focus on the fact that attacks will happen. You have to protect against it. Focus on what your strategy looks like. Focus on the organization capabilities that you have. Focus on the policies that you're building. Focus on the processes that you have across all the multitudes of how you're deploying the platform, and then focus on the technology that can support you with a secure, resilient state. And one of the key elements of that is going to be understanding that you need to not be a blocker, you need to actually be an enabler to building out that Regtech platform, to continue to be agile by building out an integrated platform, to continue to have the speed, have the analytics that Regtech platforms use, and you're able to secure those analytics, and of course have the right level of integration such that you can then automate, you can automatically prevent, you can have the right visibility and continuous monitoring across those areas. So that's generally how I would advise between the two. Back to you, Rosemary.
We've actually shared the information that is required for both the users and the consumers. So we've talked about online litigation, online compliance, and all this, in my mind, is COVID-assisted digital transformation. I think without even wanting to, we have all been forced to morph. What have you seen as some of the challenges? And I'll ask Munyango, Zilani, and Janet. What are some of the key challenges that you've seen in just a minute in regarding the transformation? What are some of the bloopers, so to speak? Janet,
Okay,
you can go first.
I'll go first.
Oh, Miriam.
All right,
Okay, fine.
Janet can go. Yeah. So when we built My Comply Kit, it was before COVID, but we ended up launching during COVID, which to some extent was a good thing. But the challenges we've had are that the lack of trust in technology. And basically, it's the same thing that happens with e-commerce. So if you want to buy something online, there's a bit of hesitation. It's the same thing that we experience, where there's a bit of hesitation in terms of who are the people behind this? Can I trust them? Is this information that they're providing correct? And so that's why when we were building the platform, we knew that this might be an issue because of the nature of legal services. It's really traditional. You need to have some form of one-on-one contact with your customers. And so we incorporated that. And I wouldn't say it's per se a challenge. I think it's a process. It's part of the process of growing towards full automation. So we start with a bit of, both. There's automation and there's one-on-one interaction at different levels. Some is very one-on-one meetings, face-to-face meetings. Others is just being able to contact someone. But I do think with time, and especially aided by the pandemic and the push towards full digitization, we're going to see people fully embrace Regtech. Yeah, over to Rosemary.
Thank you very much, Zilani. Munyango? Munyango, once again, you're muted, so kindly unmute.
One big challenge that we have encountered during this COVID period has been most of the government institutions are not really digitized. So getting access to information or getting access to platforms where probably public meetings are taking place was an issue at first. And basically, these are teething problems that come when an organization is adopting technology, the use of technology. But over time, now I think almost all government institutions are using digital platforms, and then we hope that it will develop also when it comes to these other issues such as public participation, having digital public participation forums, so that getting information on information relevant to during policy changes and policy making processes that are relevant to us and our business will be much more easier. But generally, we found a way around it. But that was the biggest challenge that we encountered during this COVID period, because things went to digital and most government institutions were not ready for that. Over to you, Rosemary.
So I'm going to ask Janet. I don't want to put you on the spot, but we've talked about Regtech, technology, and here I'm going to ask about, with the adoption of technology, we have instances of lawyers behaving badly. What are your thoughts? What do you think we need to learn? What do we need to adopt? What do we need to actually do so that we can positively utilize technology, but also at the same time, think about issues like security, safety, and all that?
Thank you, Rosemary. You're very correct to a certain extent, and this is something we've also seen internally, or we've been witness to. So one of the things we are seeing is a bit of disrespect to the hardware itself. A lot of small accidents within the house of people pouring things on their machines, children interfering with the hardware and everything. So the same way you treat your machine in the office is the same way you should be able to treat it in any other environment, so that you just avoid issues of damaging a lot of data that would be sitting within the machine. Then on the others is just soft skills and cultural overhaul in terms of how people behave on online platforms. I think at this age maybe awareness programs should be re-emphasized, but also it's those things that the etiquette that you would observe when you walk into a courtroom and you have to let somebody speak first, and you have to be quiet when somebody is speaking, and you have to respect the court as it is. When you walk into a meeting, you have to let the senior lawyer lead, or you have to let the other party agitate their point before you jump in, and all those. So those are some of the skills that we need to translate now onto the online platforms, because it's not a different way of, it's a different way of socializing, but we are still socializing on digital platforms. So the same respect and the etiquette you'd have in face to face is the same sort of respect and etiquette that needs to be brought here. Whether now we need to now tighten it and introduce penalties or guidelines that are enshrined in some sort of written format is a question that I'd probably leave to the law society.
Janet, I think you're frozen. So Janet is talking about having code of conduct, and are you back, Janet? You were frozen for a minute. Anyway, so basically what Janet is talking about, a code of conduct in terms of even penalties, and I think for me that's very welcome. In various instances, we find that we forget this. You've not switched off your camera, you've not muted, you've not done one thing or the other, leaving a serious foot in mouth situation. So yes, let's see how that is played out with time. So I'm going to ask Hadia to give us a parting shot. What do you leave as your words of wisdom for our audiences and our clients today regarding Regtech and cybersecurity, other than the questions that you had been answered before?
Thank you again, Rosemary. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, because there's lots of parting thoughts, but I'll focus on the ones that make the most the more common ones, let's just say. I think with any plan and with any strategy that we build, we have to follow the traditional approach of focusing on a platform and not focusing on integrated or siloed solutions. So what we're finding more and more today, and one of the key learnings that we've got also from COVID, is that organizations went out and actually developed a lot of point solutions. And now at a time of COVID, and also as we see a rise in cyber attacks, it's getting more and more difficult to understand the logs that they're seeing. It's more and more difficult to stitch together all the multiple cybersecurity vendors that they have in their environment. So I would say my parting thought here is focus on helping you prepare and predict on cyber attacks, focus on preventing and turn on those prevention capabilities that you have in your solutions, focus on detection and make sure you have continuous monitoring built in, and then of course focus on making sure that you have the right responses in place when you see the cyber attacks, because unfortunately it's not a question of if, it's a question of when those attacks happen. So you need to make sure that you have all four of those elements implemented.
I'm sure Munyango and Nzilani are listening, and they should be able to reach out to you really soon on how to secure the platforms. So, Munyango, can you give us a parting shot on today's session?
Regtech is the future. Regtech is the future. People want to be updated on the go, want to, as there was actually earlier said, the age of papers is coming to an end. People want to be updated on the go. They want to get a short email, a text that is telling them what they need to know about the policy landscape. So I think the market is getting ready slowly by slowly, and yeah, this is the future.
Thank you very much, Munyango. So next, I'll go to Janet.
Just to echo everybody's opinions, the future is technology. We had better get ready. Any policies, any framework, any systems, any operating procedures that need to be put in place we need to start cultivating them now. make them part of our operating processes within organizations, awareness, culture shift, so that when we are fully digital and we are fully embrace technology, we will not leave anyone behind.
Thank you very much, Janet. And I'll now jump to Nzilani. Nzilani, can you wrap this up for us?
Right. Um, I don't know if people have heard of the term Uberization of legal services, and that's basically the very swiftly approaching change in delivery of legal services through technology. It's basically disruption of how we're used to delivering legal services and how that's going to change and how that's going to affect businesses. Because as we can see, and especially now aided by COVID, people want to get their services instantly. They want convenience, they want affordability, they want efficiency, and they want good services with all of that in place. And so, whether we like it or not, we are going to move towards Regtech a lot more than we are now. I think perhaps Kenya is slightly behind in terms of the legal profession adopting, but it's definitely coming. So there's going to be Uberization of legal services in Kenya.
So I now wrap this session up. Thank you very much for our audience who are listening. Thank you very much our panelists who've shared amazing, interesting thoughts. Regtech is one thing we can't run away from. It's here to stay. As data increases in numbers, of course, we can't have enough human beings matching to undertake compliance. Yet regulators are still knocking on our doors, making sure that we are compliant. So karibuni sana. It's been a lovely session. Until next time, Rosemary Koech Kimwatu. Thank you.